Some crimes are loud, others happen quietly, and the quiet ones are always the hardest to see. My name is Detective Hale. For years, I've investigated cases that were never meant to be reopened. Some truths are hidden, others are buried, but every secret leaves a trace. The museum wasn't famous. It didn't appear on postcards. Tourists didn't line up outside its doors. But it was respected. It stood there the way old institutions do, quietly, confidently, as if time itself had agreed to leave it alone. Thick stone walls, tall windows, a facade that didn't ask for attention because it never needed to. The building had once belonged to a nobleman. Old money, old taste, a man who believed art should be preserved, not admired loudly. When he died, he left everything to the city, his fortune, his collection, and one condition. The house would become a museum, and it would never be altered, never modernized beyond necessity, never cheapened. The city accepted. Over the decades, the museum built a reputation on one simple idea. Nothing ever went wrong there. No scandals, no thefts, no headlines. Just quiet halls, polished floors, and art that waited patiently to be seen. That reputation became its greatest weakness. Because when a place convinces itself it's untouchable, it stops watching closely. I arrived early that morning, before the public, before the press, before anyone had time to panic. The doors were already open, the alarms were silent, the guards were calm, too calm. Inside, everything looked exactly the way it always had. No broken glass, no shattered displays, no forced locks. At first glance, it didn't look like a crime scene at all. And that was the first problem. Crime scenes usually announce themselves. They're loud, messy, eager to be understood. This one was quiet, too quiet. The stolen works weren't discovered by chance. They weren't noticed because something was missing. They were noticed because something didn't feel right. 3 frames hung on the wall of a side gallery, aligned, perfectly spaced. From a distance, they looked untouched. Up close, they told a different story. The paintings inside them weren't originals. They were copies. Not terrible ones, but not good enough to fool someone who knew what they were looking at. The colors were slightly off, the lines too careful, the confidence missing. They hadn't been stolen violently. They had been replaced. That distinction mattered. Thieves take what they can carry. Professionals take what they can control. Replacing art takes time, skill, preparation. It means the thief wasn't afraid of being interrupted. It means they expected silence. I walked the gallery slowly, not looking at what was gone, but at what was left behind. Walls don't lie. Floors don't invent stories. They only show you where people stood, where they moved, where they hesitated. There were no footprints, no drag marks, no signs of struggle. The frames had been removed carefully, lifted, and returned. Someone had known exactly how long it would take. Someone who had practiced. Behind one of the statues, half hidden by shadow, I noticed something small on the floor. A button, metal, standard issue, scratched from wear. It didn't belong there. Buttons don't fall off on their own. They're torn or forgotten. I bagged it without comment. At the time, it didn't feel important. It felt familiar. And familiarity in investigations is rarely an accident. The guards said they hadn't noticed anything unusual. Same routes, same schedules, same silence. The cameras backed them up. Every hallway, every door, every empty room, the system had seen everything. Security systems are designed to keep people out. They're not very good at stopping people who are allowed in. The obvious theory was an inside job. It always is. Someone with access, someone who knew the building, someone who understood routine. And sometimes, the obvious answer is just a distraction. But at the beginning of every case, you follow the path that makes sense, even if it leads you exactly where someone wants you to go. At the time, I believed the museum had been betrayed from within. The museum hadn't been broken into. It had been studied. And someone had used its silence against it. The night guard didn't look like a criminal. That's always the first thing people say, and it's always the least useful. He was in his late 40s, average height, average build, the kind of man whose presence fades into routine. He had worked at the museum for years, long enough to know every corridor, every shadow, every sound the building made when it settled at night. People like that don't stand out. They blend in. And sometimes blending in is the skill. I spoke to him early, before rumors had time to grow, before suspicion learned how to speak. He sat straight in his chair, hands on his knees, uniform clean, buttons aligned, two aligned. He answered my questions calmly, directly, without hesitation. He told me about his night. Same route as always, same schedule, 4 patrols, 10:30, midnight, 2 a.m., 4. Routine spoken like a mantra. Routine is comforting. It gives people something to hold on to when they're afraid of losing control. He said he noticed nothing unusual. No sounds, no movement, no alarms. That alone didn't mean much. Crimes don't always announce themselves, especially the careful ones. I asked him about his patrols, how long each one took, where he stopped, where he slowed down. He didn't struggle to answer. That mattered. People who lie often trip over details. People who tell the truth rarely do. At least, not at first. While he talked, I watched him. Not his face, his hands, his posture, the way his eyes moved when he thought he was done answering. And then there was the uniform. Standard issue, functional, designed to disappear into the background. The buttons caught my attention. Metal, scratched, worn from use. The same kind I had found on the gallery floor. At the time, I didn't know if it meant anything. Similarity isn't proof. Coincidence exists, but coincidence also likes patterns. I didn't mention the button. Not yet. Information has weight. You don't drop it unless you know exactly where it will land. I asked him about access. Who could go where? Who could open what? He explained protocol without defensiveness. One guard on duty at night, one set of responsibilities. He wasn't proud of the job, but he respected it. That mattered too. People who disrespect their work cut corners. People who respect it protect routines. Routines can hide a lot. He told me about the control room, about the panel, about the systems he was trained to monitor, not question. He spoke like someone repeating instructions learned a long time ago. That's another thing about routine. After a while, you stop thinking. You just execute. I asked him how many times he entered the control room during a shift. He answered without pause. Only when necessary, only during scheduled checks, only as instructed. Still no hesitation, still no cracks. At that point, I had nothing solid. No confession, no contradiction, no mistake. Just a man who had been exactly where he was supposed to be, at exactly the wrong time. And that's when suspicion becomes dangerous. Because proximity isn't guilt, but it's rarely irrelevant. What troubled me wasn't what he said. It was what his story implied. 4 patrols, a predictable rhythm, a building that slept between them, and a crime that required patience. Replacing art isn't something you do in a hurry. It's something you do when you know no one will interrupt you. The guard didn't deny access. He embodied it. If someone wanted time alone in the museum, they didn't need to sneak. They just needed to be him. By the time the interview ended, I still believed he might be innocent. But innocence doesn't erase responsibility, and responsibility leaves traces. At that stage of the investigation, everything pointed in one direction. The guard had been there. He had the access. He had the routine. And routine is a powerful accomplice. Still, something didn't sit right. Criminals who plan this carefully usually make one mistake. They assume the obvious answer will be enough, and it rarely is. At least, not for me. Every investigation reaches a point where instinct isn't enough anymore. You can feel that something is wrong. You can sense direction. But until you understand how something was possible, suspicion remains just a feeling. That's where systems come in. And systems always have someone who understands them better than everyone else. Carter wasn't a detective. He wasn't security. He was the museum's systems administrator, the kind of man who knows buildings the way others know faces. He didn't patrol hallways. He mapped them. He didn't watch doors. He watched signals. People like Carter don't make noise. They explain it. He walked me through the museum's security setup calmly, without drama, without ego. Motion sensors, pressure plates, infrared detection, standard systems, layered redundancies. The kind of setup designed to make people feel safe. But safety is a feeling. Security is a process. And processes always depend on control points. I asked him a simple question. Could the systems be adjusted manually? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he showed me. A control panel, metal casing, old design, heavy door, locked. The kind of lock that doesn't intimidate thieves, only access. That's when I understood something important. Locks don't protect systems. They define responsibility. The panel controlled everything. Cameras, sensors, alarms. Every layer of protection passed through that door. I asked who had access. Carter didn't hesitate. Night security, one key, protocol. That word again. Keys are funny things. People think they represent trust. They don't. They represent limits. A key doesn't mean you're trusted. It means you're accountable. If something goes wrong, The key tells you where to look first. I asked where the key was kept. On the guard. Always. No duplicates, no spares. Just one. Clean, simple, efficient. It sounded perfect. And perfect systems make investigators nervous. I inspected the panel myself. No scratches around the lock, no forced entry, no signs of tampering. Whatever had happened that night, it hadn't involved breaking anything. The system hadn't resisted. It had cooperated. That narrowed things down dramatically. If the sensors had been disabled, they hadn't been hacked, they hadn't malfunctioned, they hadn't glitched. They had been instructed, which meant someone had stood in front of that panel, unlocked it, and told the system exactly what to do. There was no shortcut, no workaround, no clever trick. Just access. At that point, the investigation became uncomfortable. Because uncomfortable truths usually arrive quietly. The guard had the key. The guard had the routine. The guard had the time. And now, we knew something else. If someone wanted to control the museum's defenses, they didn't need to be invisible. They just needed to belong. Carter stayed neutral throughout. Professional, detached. He answered questions when asked, and stopped when they ended. He didn't push theories, didn't speculate. That kind of restraint can mean two things: discipline or distance. At the time, I read it as discipline. Then we checked the cameras. Every hallway, every door, every empty room. Nothing missing, nothing erased. But one camera told a different story. Its angle had been adjusted, just enough to create a blind spot, exactly where the stolen works had hung. The camera hadn't been disabled. It had been redirected. Carter explained how. A remote controller, stored in the same locked panel, which brought us back to the key. The logs filled in the rest. At 2:14 a.m., the sensors went into standby. At 2:26, they came back online. 12 minutes. Enough time to enter the gallery, enough time to work carefully, enough time to leave nothing behind. Those 12 minutes aligned perfectly. They overlapped with the guard's second patrol. The cameras showed him elsewhere, exactly where routine said he should be. By then, the picture was forming. Access, routine, time, all roads pointed inward. The obvious theory was an inside job. It always is. And at that moment, the evidence didn't ask for imagination. It asked for acceptance. The director didn't act like a man under suspicion. That was the first thing I noticed. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't nervous. He didn't rush his answers or choose his words too carefully. He spoke the way people do when they believe their position protects them. His office reflected that belief. Natural light, neutral colors, furniture chosen to disappear into function. Nothing extravagant, nothing personal. The kind of space designed to feel permanent. He had been with the museum for years, long enough to see it change, long enough to watch trends come and go, long enough to understand which works mattered and which only pretended to. That was important, because understanding value isn't the same as possessing it. It's knowing where attention should rest. I asked him about the theft. He spoke about loss, not damage. About reputation, not money. He used words like legacy and responsibility. Words people use when they're protecting something larger than themselves, at least on the surface. He was a known art critic, not professionally controversial, respected, published. That meant he didn't just manage the collection. He understood it. He knew why certain pieces mattered more than others, why some works defined a museum, while others simply filled walls. That knowledge didn't make him guilty, but it did make him relevant. While he spoke, I watched the room. Not him. Rooms tell their own stories. On one wall, several framed photographs hung in careful alignment. Awards ceremonies, public events, moments meant to be remembered. At first glance, they looked harmless. Then the pattern emerged. Every photograph had been taken in the same gallery, the same room. And every time, the director stood next to the same works. The three that were now gone. Not once, not twice, every time. That kind of repetition isn't accidental. People don't choose the same background over and over without a reason. Sometimes it's pride, sometimes it's preference, sometimes it's attachment. I didn't ask him about the photographs. Questions too early have a way of announcing themselves. Instead, I let him talk. About funding, about public trust, about how a single incident could undo decades of work. He sounded sincere. That mattered. There was no evidence linking him to access. No keys, no schedules, no presence at the wrong time. Nothing that placed him anywhere near the mechanics of the crime. But crimes like this aren't built only on mechanics. They're built on selection, on knowing exactly what to take. As I stood to leave, I looked at the photographs one last time. The framing, the positioning. It wasn't obsession, but it wasn't random either. At that point, the case hadn't changed direction. The guard was still the most logical suspect. Access still mattered, routine still mattered, time still mattered, but something new had entered the equation. Judgment. And judgment belongs to people who know what they're looking at. I left the office without conclusions. Just another question. And in investigations like this, questions are more dangerous than answers. Up until that point, the case had been about access. Who could move freely? Who had keys? Who understood routines? But access alone doesn't explain why. And sooner or later, every investigation has to face motive. Carter brought me the numbers. Not summaries, not assumptions. Raw financial data. The kind that doesn't lie, but doesn't explain itself either. The museum wasn't just struggling, it was drowning. Maintenance costs had risen, donations had slowed, city funding was being reviewed. Quietly, discreetly, and not in the museum's favor. According to the records, the city administration had already begun discussing a replacement. Not publicly, not officially, but seriously. The director's position wasn't just unstable, it was temporary. That alone wasn't a crime. People lose jobs every day. But then Carter showed me something else. Phone records. A pattern. Several calls between the director and the museum's insurance provider. Not spread out over months. Clustered. 2, 3, sometimes 4 calls a day. All of them just days before the theft. I compared the figures, the museum's outstanding debts, the insured value of the 3 stolen works. The numbers didn't match exactly. They didn't have to. They were close enough to recognize each other. At that moment, the case shifted. Not decisively, but unmistakably. Because desperation doesn't create criminals. It creates possibilities. I went back to see the director, not to accuse him. Accusations close doors. I wanted to see how he carried the weight. He looked tired. Not panicked, not defensive, just tired. The kind of fatigue that comes from holding something together longer than it wants to stay intact. I didn't mention the theft. Not directly. I talked about budgets, about oversight, about the city's concerns. I let the silence do the work. Then I mentioned the insurance calls. Not aggressively. Casually. The way you mention weather to someone who's already soaked. He understood immediately. People who live in institutions learn to read between lines. He said the policy was about to expire, that it needed renegotiation, that conversations like that were routine. And he was right. The paperwork confirmed it. The dates aligned. The renewal process was real. Suspicious, but solid. Another theory that made sense. Another theory that refused to collapse. As I stood to leave, my attention caught on something small. A detail. He was wearing a coat. Elegant. Well kept. On the sleeve, near the cuff, a button. Metal, worn, scratched. The same pattern I had bagged from the gallery floor. I didn't react. Not outwardly. People notice when you notice things. I let my eyes move past it. Let the moment pass. At that instant, the balance of the investigation shifted again. Not away from the guard, not toward the director, just sideways. The guard still had access. The guard still had time. But now, the director had motive, knowledge, attachment, and a financial pressure that didn't exist for anyone else. The case no longer had a center. It had gravity, and gravity pulls everything toward it. I left the office with more questions than I had walked in with, which is never a good sign. The evidence was no longer pointing in a single direction. It was circling. And when cases begin to circle, they're preparing to change shape. What I didn't know yet was this. The button wasn't the answer. It was the warning. I went back to the gallery alone. Not because I expected to find something new, but because cases like this don't end when the evidence runs out. They end when you finally see what's been there all along. The room looked the same. Same walls, same frames, same silence. Nothing had changed, which meant something had been missed. I stopped looking at the paintings, stopped looking at the walls. Instead, I looked at the floor. corners, edges, places no one cares about when they believe they already understand the crime. That's where I saw it. A fragment, small, almost weightless. A piece of pencil. At first, it didn't feel important. Pencils are everywhere. Artists use them. Students drop them. But this wasn't a studio, and it wasn't a classroom. It was a gallery, and the originals weren't drawn. They were painted. I bagged the fragment, tried fingerprints. Nothing. Just like the frames, just like the panel, just like everything else. Clean. Too clean. At that moment, it felt like another dead end, another detail that refused to speak. And dead ends are dangerous. They tempt you to stop asking questions. I went back to the control room. Carter was there, always was, working quietly, focused, the kind of man who blends into the background of systems the way guards blend into buildings. And then it hit me. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just a slow, unwelcome recognition. I had seen him before. Years ago, a jewelry store downtown, a clean job, no broken glass, no forced doors, no alarms, just silence. Back then, the theft didn't make sense either, until we realized the systems hadn't failed. They'd been spoken to. Carter had been the technical mind behind it. A hacker. Not the kind who smashes through firewalls. The kind who listens, finds patterns, finds permissions no one remembers granting. He'd been caught eventually, convicted, served his time, and when he got out, he disappeared. Or so we thought. People like to believe prison erases skill. It doesn't. It just teaches restraint. I watched Carter work. The way his hands moved across the keyboard. Efficient, confident, not cautious. That mattered. People who are afraid of being recognized hesitate. He didn't. That's when the control panel took on a new meaning. The locked door. The single key. It wasn't protection. It was theater. If Carter wanted access, he didn't need the key. He didn't need to touch the panel. He didn't need to leave marks. He understood systems well enough to go around them, not through them. The blind spot, the sensors on standby, the logs that showed obedience instead of intrusion. All of it fit. Too well. Suddenly, the guard's role changed. He wasn't the criminal. He was the cover. Routine made visible. Blame made convenient. And the director? The director had motive, pressure, attachment, but no method. Not like this. The case inverted itself. Access wasn't the question. Skill was. I didn't confront Carter. Not yet. You don't corner men like that with certainty. You corner them with patience. By the end of that night, nothing was settled anymore. The guard no longer made sense. The director no longer felt central. And the man who had explained the system to me so calmly had become the most important variable in the room. That's the thing about certainty. It doesn't break loudly. It collapses inward, quietly, leaving you alone with the realization that you've been following the wrong shape the entire time. And when that happens, you don't look for answers anymore. You look for hands. The ones behind the system. The ones behind the frames. I didn't confront Carter the night before. That would have been a mistake. People say too much when they're tired. They say nothing useful when they're cornered too fast. I waited. The next morning, the museum felt different. Not quieter, not louder, just heavier. Like a place that knew it was being watched. Carter was already at his workstation when I arrived. Same posture, same focus, as if nothing had changed. As if the weight in my head hadn't shifted everything. I didn't start with accusations. Accusations turn conversations into performances. Instead, I stood beside him and watched the screen. Scrolling data, system checks, clean lines. People reveal more when you let them talk themselves into the truth. I said his name, just once. He looked up, calm. That mattered. I didn't mention the museum, didn't mention the theft. I mentioned a jewelry store, downtown, 7 years ago. There it was. The pause, not long, but real. He understood immediately. People with pasts like that always do. They don't ask questions. They recognize tone. He turned toward me fully. Didn't deny it. Didn't pretend. That surprised me. He said it plainly. Yes. That was me. He said he'd paid for it. 5 years. Every one of them. He said prison had a way of clarifying priorities. That he wanted a normal life now. A job. A routine. A place where his skills weren't used to break things. I listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't argue. Truth doesn't need help defending itself. What he said made sense. Too much sense. People who lie build stories. He built none. I told him I understood. That I wasn't there to reopen old cases. Which was true. Mostly. But understanding doesn't erase suspicion. It reframes it. He knew that. I could see it in his eyes. The way they held mine, just a fraction longer than necessary. Not defiant. Not afraid. Aware. He said he understood where I was going. Said it himself. No anger. No protest. Just acknowledgement. That's when I noticed the jacket. Dark. Simple. Functional. On the sleeve, near the cuff. A button. Metal. Scratched. Worn. The same pattern. The same weight. The same quiet familiarity. I didn't mention it. Not then. Some details are too loud when spoken. He followed my gaze. Understood immediately. He didn't hide it. Didn't adjust the sleeve. Didn't cover it. That mattered too. When the conversation ended, nothing had been resolved. No confession. No denial that rang false. Just two men standing on opposite sides of a question neither could fully answer yet. As I walked away, the case felt further apart than ever. The guard had access, the director had motive, and now Carter had history and skill, and coincidence was running out of excuses. The button had appeared again on Carter's sleeve. That didn't make him guilty, but it did make the room smaller. By the end of that day, the investigation wasn't pointing anywhere. It was folding in on itself. Every suspect carried part of the truth, and none of them carried all of it. That's the moment cases become dangerous. Not because they're unsolved, but because they tempt you to choose the explanation that hurts the least. I didn't choose. Not yet. Because something was still missing. Not a person. Not a motive. A hand. The one that had actually touched the art. I went back to the copies. Not the empty frames. Not the crime scene. The lies. Because once you understand the lie, the truth usually isn't far behind. At first glance, the forgeries were convincing. Not perfect, but good enough to fool someone who wasn't looking closely. And most people don't. They stop at color, at shape, at resemblance. They don't study technique. I did. I leaned closer, not to the surface, but beneath it. That's when I saw it. Something subtle, something unnecessary. The shadows. They weren't built slowly. They weren't layered. They were sketched, outlined, graphite. That stopped me. The originals weren't drawn. They were painted. Pure watercolor. No underdrawings. No pencil work beneath the pigment. The artist had trusted the brush. Whoever made the copies hadn't. I understood why. Watercolor takes time. It demands patience. Graphite is faster, cleaner, more forgiving. If you're in a hurry, you sketch first and paint over it later. That's when the fragment of pencil came back to me. The piece I had dismissed, bagged, logged, forgotten. Not because it didn't matter, because I didn't yet understand how. I requested a materials analysis. Quietly. I didn't want expectations influencing results, just facts. The report came back clean and devastating. The graphite in the fragment matched the graphite beneath the paint. Same composition, same hardness, same manufacturer. A specific model, not common, not cheap, used by professionals. The fragment hadn't been random. It had been a fingerprint, just not the kind people expect. Even then, the case wasn't solved, because knowing how the forgeries were made still didn't tell me who had made them. Skill narrows the field. It doesn't close it. I was standing there when he passed me, the museum's curator. I hadn't noticed him before. That was the problem. He worked quietly, behind doors, outside public hours. The kind of man people describe as dedicated because they don't know what else to say. As he walked past, something caught my eye. In the breast pocket of his jacket, a pencil. The same model, same shape, same finish. I followed the line of sight downward to his left cuff. A button, metal, scratched, worn, the same pattern. Then the right cuff, empty. That's when everything stopped being theoretical. I spoke without raising my voice. "A word with you, sir." He didn't answer. He didn't look at me. He did the one thing innocent men rarely do. He ran. Not fast, not panicked. Calculated. Like someone who knew exactly where the exits were. In that moment, every misplaced suspicion snapped into place. The guard had access. The director had motive. Carter had skill. But the curator had something else. Time, proximity, and the need to copy before he could steal. The pencil, the button, the shadows. They hadn't belonged to three different men. They had belonged to one. He had been there the whole time, invisible, working late, studying the originals, replacing them carefully and trusting that no one would ever look beneath the paint. As he disappeared down the corridor, the case finally took shape. Not as a theory, as a certainty. Because crimes like this aren't committed by men who rush. They're committed by men who prepare, who hide in plain sight, and who believe their work will never be questioned. He was wrong. He ran. Not in panic, not blindly. Straight toward the exit, straight toward his car. People imagine chases as chaos. They're not. They're decisions made too late. I followed him outside. The cold air hit harder than the realization. He reached the car first. Hand on the door. Key already out. That was as far as he got. I grabbed him before he could sit down. Pushed him against the car. The sound of metal against metal echoed louder than any alarm that night. He didn't fight. That told me everything. He broke before I asked the question. I did it. The words came out wrong. Too fast. Too emotional. Confession doesn't always come from guilt. Sometimes it comes from relief. I asked him where the originals were. He laughed, short, dry, and pointed at the trunk. Inside, wrapped carefully, protected from impact, were the paintings. The real ones, unharmed, waiting. That was the moment the case ended, and the story began. Back inside, away from eyes and noise, he talked. Not because he was pressured, because he needed to. People who commit crimes like this don't just steal, they perform. And performers want an audience. He said it wasn't just about money. It never is. Money is the excuse people give themselves when they don't want to admit it was personal. He had worked there for years, behind doors, after hours, invisible. Curating didn't come with applause. It came with silence. And in his silence, resentment grew. In his mind, he was overlooked, undervalued, treated like a technician when he believed himself an artist. The museum praised donors, praised directors, praised history, but never him. So he decided to hurt the place that ignored him. Carefully, precisely, he chose the works himself, not randomly. They weren't the most expensive. They were the most symbolic. The ones the museum used for awards, for photographs, for reputation. He created the copies weeks in advance. Late nights, no witnesses. Good enough to fool casual eyes, not good enough to last. That was intentional. He wanted the fraud to be discovered. He wanted the scandal. The theft was never meant to stay hidden. It was meant to explode later when it would hurt most. Access was the problem. Not because he didn't have it, but because he needed it to look like someone else did. So he manufactured an opportunity. A small electrical fault. Nothing dramatic. Enough to trip a breaker. The electrical panel shared a housing with the security controls. Locked. Metal. Old. When the power failed, someone had to reset it. Manually. He waited for the day guard's lunch break. Routine. Predictable. He found him at the museum cafe. Explained the issue calmly. No urgency. Trust did the rest. The guard handed over the key. Without hesitation. Years of familiarity will do that. Inside the panel, he reset the breaker. And then, the switch. Quick, silent. He replaced the key. An identical copy. The guard never noticed. That same day, after work, he went to a key-cutting shop. Simple, legal. No cameras triggered, no logs updated. The next day, he repeated the process. Same fault, same explanation. This time, he returned the original key and kept the copy. From that moment on, the museum belonged to him. Before the night of the theft, he unlocked the panel, removed the camera controller, adjusted the angle, just enough, returned everything to place. On the night of theft, he stayed late, hidden, patient. While the guard followed his routine, he waited. When the second patrol began, he moved, disabled the sensors, entered the gallery, removed the originals, installed the copies, worked quickly, efficiently. His office was next to the control room. Outside camera coverage. A blind spot he'd known about for years. He hid there, waited, let the museum breathe again. The next morning, he carried the originals to his car and waited for fear, for chaos, for the moment he would sell them. Carter listened quietly, then spoke, almost respectfully. It was nearly perfect, he said. The electrical fault wouldn't log. The manual unlock wouldn't log. The only thing that logged was the sensors going into standby. The curator smiled. Proud. I finished the thought. And losing a tool at the scene and part of your clothes undoes even the best plan. The color drained from his face. Not anger. Shock. He hadn't noticed the pencil fall, hadn't felt the button tear loose. In a crime built on control, he lost control over two small things. That's all it takes. As the police took him away, the museum felt lighter. not restored, but honest again. The paintings returned to their walls. The copies were removed. The scandal came quietly, contained. The guard kept his job. The director kept his. Carter went back to his screens. And I walked away. People ask how cases like this end. They don't. They close. There's a difference. Because long after the evidence is cataloged and the doors are locked again, what remains isn't the theft. It's the realization that the most dangerous criminals aren't the ones who break in. They're the ones who already belong.